Let's get into one of the most incredible origin stories ever told. We're going to look at how a man who was sentenced to death the moment he was born somehow ends up being raised as a prince, gets exiled as a murderer, and then becomes one of the most pivotal leaders in all of history. This is the story of Moses, a journey that starts, literally, in a river of death and finds its ultimate purpose in a bush that's on fire but never burns away. So, to really get this, our story has to start with, well, with silence. A long silence. After the time of Joseph, the biblical record goes dark for 400 years. That's 4 centuries where the Israelites are in Egypt, but we hear almost nothing. And in that quiet, something major is happening. A family that was once favored is slowly but surely being transformed into a nation of slaves. And then that silence is just shattered by a huge political shift. A new pharaoh from a totally new dynasty comes to power. This guy has no idea who Joseph was, and frankly, he doesn't care about how Joseph saved Egypt. He looks at the growing Israelite population, and he doesn't see guests. He sees a threat, a dangerous threat growing right inside his own borders. And from his perspective, the threat was massive. The Israelite population had just exploded. We're talking an estimated 2 million people. That's basically a whole nation living inside his nation. And that number, it absolutely terrified the new pharaoh. He didn't see a workforce. He saw a potential army that could rise up and turn against him at any moment. So, what does a paranoid king do when he's afraid? Well, this fear turns into cold, calculated, state-sponsored oppression. His paranoia drives him to create this systematic plan, one that's just going to get more and more cruel, all designed to do one thing: break the spirit and the future of the Israelite people. Pharaoh's plan unfolds in 3 horrific steps. First, he tries to crush them with just brutal, backbreaking slave labor. But that doesn't stop them from growing, so he escalates to secret genocide. He orders the midwives to kill all the newborn boys. But the midwives, in an incredible act of courage, they defy him. So finally, desperate and totally enraged, he makes his murderous plan public. Every single Hebrew son must be thrown into the Nile River. But right in the middle of all this terror, one family responds not with despair, but with this incredibly daring plan. It's a plan born of faith, for sure, but also of pure strategy. Their defiance starts with the birth of a baby boy, who, against all odds, is about to be rescued. Now, you have to understand, this wasn't an act of abandonment, no way. This was a strategic rescue mission. The baby, who comes from the priestly tribe of Levi, is hidden for 3 whole months. When they just can't hide him anymore, his mother builds what is essentially a miniature ark, a little basket made of papyrus, sealed up tight with tar to make it waterproof. She then places it so carefully among the reeds of the Nile, while his big sister, Miriam, watches from a distance to see what will happen. And this just highlights the incredible risk they were taking. I mean, the Nile was Pharaoh's chosen instrument of death. It was filled with crocodiles and was literally the place where the king's death decree was being carried out. And yet, this river of death was also the private bathing spot for Egyptian royalty, specifically Pharaoh's own daughter, who many scholars believe was Hatshepsut, one of the most powerful female rulers in history. In this amazing twist, the place of execution becomes the site of salvation. His very name becomes a permanent reminder of how he was saved. Pharaoh's daughter calls him Moses, which in Hebrew sounds like the verb to draw out, and she explains why: because I drew him out of the water. His miracle rescue is now forever baked into his identity. So through this unbelievable twist of fate, the boy who is condemned to die in the Nile is now being raised as a prince of Egypt. But that life of privilege, it's on a collision course with who he really is. And that's going to lead us to the next dramatic act of his life. You can really break Moses' entire 120-year life down into 3 distinct 40-year chunks. He spends the first 40 years living as a prince in Egypt, getting the best education in the known world. But his next 40 years won't be in a palace. Nope. They'll be spent as a fugitive, a shepherd, out in the middle of nowhere. The turning point comes when he's around 40. Moses sees an Egyptian brutally beating a Hebrew slave. And in that moment, his royal upbringing and his true heritage just collide. In a flash of rage, he kills the Egyptian and buries him in the sand. But the secret gets out, and just like that, the prince of Egypt becomes a wanted fugitive, fleeing for his very life into the desert.
So for the next 40 years, he's not a prince anymore. He's a shepherd in a place called Midian. He gets married, starts a family, and when his first son is born, he names him Gershom. That name tells you everything about his state of mind. It means, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. The prince is now a complete and total outcast.
Decades just pass. The Pharaoh who wanted him dead is long gone. Moses is now 80 years old, an anonymous shepherd whose royal past must feel like a dream. His life is settled into this quiet obscurity. But then one day, while he's leading his flock near Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, his quiet life is interrupted by a sight that is just impossible. He sees a desert bush completely engulfed in flames, but it's not burning up. It's not turning to ash. The leaves aren't charring. It just keeps burning. This paradox, this complete defiance of nature, is a divine spectacle. It's designed for one purpose, to get the attention of a curious old shepherd. And you know what? It works.
So as Moses gets closer to check out this bizarre sight, the strange phenomenon becomes a personal summons. A voice erupts from the very heart of the fire, and it calls his name, not once, but twice, with this incredible urgency. Moses! Moses!
And God's very first command to him is a symbolic one. In the ancient world, taking off your sandals was a profound sign of humility and respect. You did it when you entered a sacred space or when you were in the presence of someone far superior. This act means one thing. Moses, the fugitive shepherd, is now standing on holy ground. This whole encounter isn't just a spectacle. It's a commissioning. It's a job interview. At 80 years old, this forgotten exile is about to be given a new and seemingly impossible mission that will completely redefine the rest of his life. The timing here is just so profound. Think about it. At age 40, Moses tried to be a hero on his own terms. He used his own strength and anger, and it ended in murder and exile. It's only now, at age 80, after 4 decades of being humbled and stripped of all his princely arrogance, that God finally considers him ready for his true calling. So Moses asks the obvious question. Okay, when I go to them, who should I say sent me? And the answer he gets is one of the most powerful and important statements in the entire biblical narrative. God reveals his personal covenant name. I am who I am. This isn't just a title, it's a declaration. It means he is self-existent, he's eternally present, and it's a direct link to the promises God made to his ancestors centuries before. And the mission itself? It is staggering. I mean, just listen to this to-do list. Go back to Egypt, the one place where he's a wanted man. Stand before the most powerful ruler on earth and demand that he release his entire slave workforce. And then lead 2 million people on a dangerous journey through the desert to a new homeland. I mean, from any human perspective, this is a suicide mission. And really, this is the core of his whole story. A forgotten 80-year-old shepherd is commanded to confront an empire. It forces us to ask this timeless question, one that echoes down to today. What happens when the people who seem completely powerless accept a divine mission? Well, the answer is about to change the course of history.